We're currently busy with a series called Nutrition 101, where I just want to focus a little bit on the foundations and making sure we know what the basics are when it comes to our macronutrients and micronutrients. So in the previous video, we focused on carbohydrates, and I thought today we will focus on another macronutrient called protein. So you've probably heard a lot about protein already and have read up about it, and people definitely know it is an important macronutrient in our diet. But I thought today I'd just bring about some clarity in terms of how to incorporate protein in your diet, and especially if you are vegan or vegetarian. Before we start with the video, just a quick introduction. My name is Melissa Mel. I'm a registered dietitian and I'm part of the Body 20 Nutrition Doctor team. If you're new here, very welcome. We do these videos every 2 weeks. And you're welcome to send us any questions if you have any via WhatsApp or email. So back to protein. So most people know that protein is really important for building muscle. So if your goal is to build muscle, protein is definitely something you need to be prioritizing in your diet. Now, protein isn't just important for building muscle. Protein has many other roles in the body as well, like for example, hormone regulation. It's important for your blood cells, for production of enzymes, and the list just goes on and on and on. So we definitely need to be making sure that we are having a sufficient amount of protein in the diet. Another benefit of protein is that it actually helps us feel a little bit fuller for longer, and the calorie amount in protein is a little bit lower than, for example, in our fat foods or foods that contain fat. So again, like I mentioned in the previous video, if we look at the amount of calories in the different macronutrients, we see that 1 gram of carbohydrates contain 4 calories, 1 gram of protein also 4 calories, whereas 1 gram of fat contains 9 calories. So we do see that a higher protein diet definitely helps us with feeling fuller for longer, but definitely has less calories than having, for example, a high fat diet. Now, when it comes to making sure that we are prioritizing protein in our diet, there's definitely 2 types of proteins we therefore get. Now, we get our animal sources, which is our more higher bioavailable types of protein sources. Now, things like eggs, fish, chicken, meat, dairy products, and so forth. Higher bioavailability just means that these proteins are absorbed a lot easier into the body and actually get into the muscles and doing their job a lot easier than, for example, your plant-based proteins. Now, this doesn't mean that your plant-based proteins are inferior. It just means that it just takes a little bit more effort and a bit of more making sure that we are having good combinations of our plant-based proteins. Now, the reason why these animal proteins are more bioavailable is just because of the amino acid composition of these proteins. You think of amino acids as the building blocks of the protein. Like, for example, if you think of a wall, there's different bricks that actually make up the wall, and that would be our amino acids. Now, animal sources contain all of the amino acids, whether they're essential, meaning that the body can't produce them ourselves, we need to actually consume them, and they also contain all the non-essential amino acids, making them a complete protein. So whether you eat an egg, drink a cup of milk, or eat a bowl of yogurt, or eat chicken or fish or whatever it might be, you are getting in a complete protein that is very bioavailable, making it easy for the body to use up all the amino acids it needs to be able to build muscle, to make neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine, and other hormones and so forth. But if you, let's say, are following a plant-based protein, maybe for your preference, or you're vegan or vegetarian or whatever the case may be, it does become a little bit more challenging, but it's not impossible. Now, when you are following a plant-based diet, it is really important to have combinations of these proteins in your diet. So plant-based proteins are typically referred to as incomplete proteins because, unfortunately, if we're looking at a plant-based source of protein, like for example lentils, it doesn't contain all of the amino acids like chicken breast would, for example. But if you combine, lentils with rice, for example, even though you wouldn't think of rice as being a protein, it contains amino acids still. That actually makes up all of the amino acids, making it a complete protein. So to make it easier for yourself, because it might become a little bit challenging, or you think, okay, well, what do I need to combine with each other? It doesn't really need to be a thing that you need to achieve every single day, that you are getting in every amino acid every single day. it works over, let's say, a period of time, let's say over a week. So if you can make sure that you are implementing a few different sources of plant-based proteins in your diet, you should be able to achieve your protein goals and making sure you are building muscle and providing the body with sufficient amount of amino acids to actually, make all the things that it needs to do for optimal health and well-being. So plant-based proteins would be things like beans, like your lentils, chickpeas, buttered beans, and the list goes on. Your legumes, for example, but then also nuts and seeds contain protein, tofu, soy products, and the likes definitely also contain protein. If you are vegetarian, you typically still can have, for example, dairy products and let's say eggs. It really depends on your preference. And it also depends on your, let's say, religious beliefs or cultural beliefs, or whatever leads you to following a plant-based protein. The last note on protein is just specifically geared towards building muscle. So if your goal is to build muscle, you definitely, like I've mentioned in the beginning of the video, need to prioritize having protein. So in general, we typically want to have a protein source at every single meal. So breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And then if you are having snacks in between, also prioritizing protein so that we're having that consistent intake of protein throughout the day to really support the muscles so that they can actually build optimally. However, if you're not having enough carbohydrates with that, we do see that the protein often is used to refill the glycogen stores. That's maybe when you've exercised, you've used up some of the carbohydrates, and then that protein often goes into the glycogen stores and doesn't really get used up as effectively. Another thing is we need insulin that is released by carbohydrate intake to actually also take up the amino acids into the muscles. So if you are following a low carbohydrate diet, it's not the end of the world. Just make sure you're not following a no carbohydrate diet. We do definitely still need some healthy low GI carbohydrates in the diet to also optimize our protein intake. So it really just comes down to a good balance at the end of the day. So if you are still following an animal-based protein diet, make sure you are choosing your leaner cuts of meat where possible, since we know that fat is higher in calories and this might be leading to a higher calorie diet. And if you are trying to lose fat, this might pose a bit of a problem because you might be consuming more calories than what you are burning, leading to you not actually losing fat as effectively as you would have wanted to. My last note is protein supplements. So this is a question I get asked quite often is, should I be taking a protein shake after I've trained? Or, whatever the case may be. Or should I be eating 6 eggs, for example? And really it depends on person to person. It depends on what your goals are, definitely. But the short answer is that there isn't anything superior to a protein supplement. You can definitely still get the muscle gains and whatever your goal might be through food. So you don't need to drink it in a protein supplement. However, protein supplements like a shake sometimes is a little bit easier if you are pushed for time, or maybe if you're not a big eater, maybe you don't really like the taste of meat, but you do still want to have like a whey protein, for example, then it might be beneficial for you. I just want to caution you, if you are trying to lose fat, having protein supplements additional to your diet might be one of the reasons why you're not losing fat. Even though it's protein, it's still calories, and it's still contributing to the amount of calories that you're consuming in the day. And to lose fat, we need to be in a calorie deficit. So maybe just make sure that you are, if you do really want to take a protein shake, that you're not taking it on top of a really high calorie diet already. And then when it comes to protein shakes, there's so many on the market. It really depends on your taste preference, on your price range, or whatever you want to choose. And then, of course, you get your plant-based protein supplements, which is, of course, if you are following a plant-based diet, definitely more beneficial. These are typically made up of pea protein or rice protein, for example. There's nothing wrong with them. They're great options. Again, it's really your choice if you want to use them or not. And then, of course, we do get our very popular whey protein supplements and casein protein supplements. Casein supplements not as popular necessarily, mainly because the whey protein is more fast, quickly absorbed into the muscles, helping with the recovery a lot quicker. So we do see that is a little bit more beneficial. Casein supplements often are taken at night if you are someone that tends to wake up in the middle of the night and you feel extremely hungry, a casein supplement might be then for you, because it will help you feel a little bit fuller for longer, because casein takes longer to actually then get absorbed and work in the body. So if you need to be replacing your protein quickly, a whey protein would be very effective. And then of course you get the whey protein isolate and all the different brands out there. Again, if you have sufficient amount of time to recover after a training session, if you've gymmed this morning and you're only going to gym the next morning, don't stress too much about that. It's really up to you and whether your stomach can handle it or not. If you are maybe training multiple times a day, then focusing on a whey protein isolate might be a little bit more beneficial for you to get that protein in as fast as possible. So that's it for protein. If you had any questions, you're very welcome to let us know, and then I'll see you in the next one.